Hey, this is John. Welcome to Lesson 10 of the Outlier Mandarin Pronunciation and Accent Masterclass. In the previous lesson, I showed you a technique called chorusing, and I talked about how when you're doing chorusing, the first things that you need to focus on are getting the rhythm right and getting the intonation right. In this lesson, I'm going to talk more about rhythm and intonation, and how mastering those two things will take you a long way toward a more native-like accent. Rhythm is absolutely fundamental to the way our brains process sound. It's true in music, and it's also very true in language. Every language and every variety of a language has its own native rhythms. For example, I grew up in Northwest Florida, really close to Alabama. Let's take a listen to the local accent in that area.
I'm doing this accent challenge video because people always asking me where I'm from.
Let's focus on the last phrase in that clip because it's really representative of the type of rhythms you'll hear in the speech of that part of the U.S.
People always asking me where I'm from.
Listen to the rhythm. Use the syllable ba to follow along.
People always asking me where I'm from.
So here's the rhythm. Ba 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 ba.
People always asking me where I'm from.
The syllables are approximately even in length, but there's a distinct emphasis on the first syllable of people, always, asking, and on the words where and from. That's a feature of English rhythm. The important syllables are accented, while the less important ones are de-emphasized. Let's listen to that clip again.
People always asking me where I'm from.
So if you're trying to imitate this guy's accent, you have to get that rhythm right, or else you'll never sound like him. There's a saying in the South, and I'm going to say it like we would say it there. Maybe it's used other places too, but we definitely say it this way in the South. Them's fighting words, boy. Now, that's a response to somebody insulting you or talking bad about you in some way. It's usually used humorously, like this. Hey John, you have bad taste in music. What? Them's fighting words, boy. And that's the rhythm. Ba 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 ba. What? Them's fighting words, boy. Now you can say it slower. Ba 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 ba. But it's basically always that rhythm or close to it. Ash and I tried to teach a German friend of ours how to say that phrase a few years ago. And no matter how much we tried to get him to focus on the rhythm and intonation, he just couldn't do it. He was bringing his German intonation into it. And so he would say things like, "Them's fightin' words, boy." And even if he kept his German accent and just got the rhythm and intonation right, he would have sounded a lot more native. Now, of course, rhythm is not the only component of an accent. There's also intonation, there's consonants and vowels. In the case of a tonal language, there's tones, etc. Think of accent like a pyramid. The foundation is rhythm. You can't have any of the rest of it without rhythm. And the rhythm has to be right for the language you're trying to learn. Using English rhythm to speak Chinese is like building a square building on a triangular foundation. It's just not going to fit. The next layer is intonation. On top of that is consonants, vowels, and tones. Okay, so let's talk about intonation. And when I say intonation, I mean sentence level or phrase level intonation. That is the way the pitch changes over the course of the sentence or phrase. I'm not talking about tones. Intonation is closely related to rhythm because you can't get the intonation right if your rhythm is wrong. It's impossible. So that's the reason that in the chorusing video, I told you to focus on rhythm first and then to layer intonation on top of it. When I said earlier in this video that rhythm is fundamental, what I meant was this. You can't say anything without it. Anything you say has a rhythm to it. Now, it may be a native rhythm or it may be a non-native rhythm, but you can't say a phrase without there being a rhythm to it. So that's why you need to get that right first, and then build the rest of it on that foundation. You can, however, have rhythm without consonants and vowels, and even without intonation. That's why I say to focus on that first. You strip everything else away except the rhythm until you get the rhythm right. Then you can layer intonation on top of it. Once you have that, then you add in the consonants and vowels, and since you already have the rhythm and intonation down, adding the consonants and vowels becomes easy, and you'll already be most of the way to a native-like accent for the sentence that you're working on. The problem is that most people go about it in completely the opposite way. They start out with consonants, vowels, and tones without ever getting the rhythm and intonation right. So they end up bringing their intonation and rhythm from their own language to Chinese, and that's why they end up with a foreign accent. That's exactly what a foreign accent is bringing sounds and influence from your language to the language that you're learning. Starting with rhythm and intonation first fixes that problem because it allows you to layer those consonants, vowels, and tones over native-like rhythm and intonation. A friend of mine when I was in language school got frustrated that Taiwanese people would always switch to English when they were talking to him. And this is what he said. 我不知道你们为什么不要跟我讲中文，我在跟你们讲中文。Yeah, man, that may be why they don't want to speak Chinese with you. It's really hard to understand you with that American accent. When you listen to him say that, or to me imitating him say that, you can almost hear the English words in the sentence. I don't know why you guys don't want to speak Chinese. I'm speaking Chinese to you. The intonation of those sentences is super similar, and it absolutely should not be. You're talking about two completely unrelated languages here. And that's probably why people wanted to switch from Chinese to English when they were talking to him, because it's super hard to understand such a strong foreign accent. It takes a lot of mental processing power. By the way, I'm glad to say that his accent now is very good. He put a lot of time into working on it, and he's now a successful translator. Okay, so now back to intonation. Once you have the rhythm down, then you can focus on the intonation, or the pitch contours of the sentence or phrase. Let's take a listen at the sentence we listened to in the previous lesson.
它的价格是3万台币。
Okay, listen again.
它的价格是3万台币。
So the rhythm there is ba 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 ba. Once you have that down, then add the intonation. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Once you have that, then you can add the consonants and vowels.
它的价格是3万台币。
Earlier I said that rhythm is fundamental to language. Well, intonation is too. And in fact, studies have shown that intonation is one of the first things we learn about our native language as babies. They did a study that shows that German babies cry downward, while French babies cry upward, following the intonation patterns of their native language. And not only that, they cry with that accent in the first week after being born. In this lesson, we talked about two elements of accent that don't get nearly enough attention: rhythm and intonation. And we also talked about how if you get those two things right, it'll take you a long way towards sounding more native-like. So spend some time with the chorusing method, and remember to focus on rhythm first, then intonation, and then finally on the consonants and vowels. If you spend some time doing this every day, your accent will improve dramatically over the course of a few months. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about how to deal with fast or unclear speech. See you then.